Hi everyone, Azan here. Okay, so we have interdisciplinary, intradisciplinary, and cross-disciplinary, and so on. So what does all this terminology actually means? So to help me with this explanation of these terminologies, I've invited my friend Bob. So Bob, if you can help us with this.
Thank you, Erzan. Okay, let's start with the definition of all these terminologies that can be very jargon to you. To find a proper or a clear definition of what this terminologies actually means is kind of complex. The use of this term varies from one disciplinary to another. So what I'm going to do is to explain all of these terminologies with visual aids, and, at the same time, looking at the summary of this definition that is based on Marilyn Stember's 1990 paper, Advancing the Social Sciences Through the Interdisciplinary Enterprise, in which she offers the following overview of different levels of disciplinarity. The components shown by the big circle represent the body of scope, while all the small circles represent the subdisciplines. Interdisciplinary is working within a single discipline, while cross-disciplinary is on viewing one discipline from the perspective of another. As for multidisciplinary is when people from different disciplines working together and each of them drawing on their own disciplinary knowledge. And interdisciplinary is about integrating knowledge and methods from different disciplines using a real synthesis of approaches. Lastly, transdisciplinary, creating a unity of intellectual frameworks beyond the disciplinary perspectives. Now, I don't expect all of you to be 100% clear with the definition, because I, myself, still not entirely sure, for example, the difference between interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary, but my guess is that the latter is one more step towards full integration, or so what I think. Anyway, I hope you find this useful, and thank you, Erzan.
Now we are back in Steve's office, and we're going to ask Steve a bit about his practice. Okay, Steve, why don't you introduce yourself to the class?
Okay, I'm Steve Dixon. I'm president of LaSalle. I began life, I did a degree in drama and started life as an actor and a stand-up comedian for a little while. So really enjoying the live stage. And then as an actor, you get opportunities to work in television and film. And I had a very small part in a film for 3 months. So I was sitting around, I was virtually an extra, but I had a part, a speaking part. But I was there 3 months, but doing very little. And I just got interested really in what the camera was doing and how a movie was put together. And so I bought myself a movie camera and started to make, with actor friends, little dramas and so on. So I became a filmmaker. So I combined sort of work as an actor with actually being a practitioner as a filmmaker, and got really into that, and then became a filmmaker and a TV producer. And then with that kind of interest in media, I then got interested in digital media and interactive media, and how you can make stories that become more interactive and more experimental in their forms, and also how we can use different media and bring them all together. So from developing a kind of range of skills, being sort of a stage actor, also a stage director, and then kind of coordinating things, producing things, making film, making multimedia. I started, if you like, I became interdisciplinary. I'm working with a lot of different disciplines. And just really started to enjoy the experimentation of that, and ideas of research, how you can be a kind of researcher trying to create new forms by using these media, or very, very original expressions or storytelling methods that can involve the audience and so on. So I started to really kind of work in lots of different ways, and I continue to do it. And in March 2014, I'll be performing a multimedia live theatre show, one-man show here in Singapore. So I continue, even though I spend a lot of time working hard, but being a president, leading and being a visionary and a manager of LaSalle, I still kind of believe passionately you got to keep real with your artistic practice. So that's a bit about me.
Yeah. Okay, now we're back in the studio, okay, with Elizabeth. Why don't you talk about yourself and give a brief introduction about yourself?
Okay, so predominantly I'm trained in theatre. I was first trained as an actress. Then after I went into directing, and then I started looking at video because I was also trained in film before. So my interest in looking at theatre because it's a live event. So the response with the audience is very immediate. There's a kind of immediate responses.
Okay, now we are back in the substation and we have the director of the substation, Effendi. Okay, why don't you give a short intro of yourself?
Okay, my name is Nur Effendi Ibrahim, currently artistic director of the substation since 2010. Basically, I consider myself interdisciplinary artist with main practice is in theatre and performance. But mainly I also collaborate with artists from different art forms and genres. Yeah.
What triggers you to jump into this bandwagon of doing things which is of multiple platform, and integrating this thing together? Do you see it as just a natural progression from yourself as an actor, and then you seeing that there's more to it, or it's just something that you always wanted to do?
I mean, in some ways, it's a natural progression. So I think as an actor, you're a bit of a kind of puppet. And there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, it's great being an actor, and I enjoy being an actor. But equally, I want to be a creator. I want to be the artist who's kind of creating a kind of vision or an original type of expression. And then in terms of like playing with lots of different media, I think it's because it is genuinely exciting. There are things you can do by combining media that really is more than just a layering of ideas or a layering of expressive articulation and so on. There is a kind of synergy where the sum of the different parts are much greater than those different elements.
I think it's a natural progression, but I think it's also more of an interest because I'm very interested in video, also images. I actually wanted to become a photographer at first. So when I was an undergrad, I used to have my own dark room.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was doing that and everything else. But then I found out that it was very difficult to make a living as a photographer. Oops, sorry, but yeah. So I was already interested in framing, visual framings. Like why do you look at a piece of painting or I couldn't draw, so that's why I went into photography. If I could draw, maybe
Oh, we censor that up.
Yeah. So when I look at photograph, I'm like looking at a still image, and yet it provokes me. Yet it creates some sense of curiosity. So I was like saying, oh, okay, so maybe there's something in the composition of a visual image. The way we frame things, the way we look at things, right? So I started looking at performing, and I was really trained as a dancer when I was very young, ballet, so that kind of like got me interested in acting, but I want to move more, so I got interested in circus. I got interested in physical theatre, using circus skills, like acrobatics and everything else. And that, to me, I got interested, and when I was studying, I was introduced to semiotics, visual imagery, got me to look at how people frame things up. So you could say that it was interest, but at the same time it was progression. And when I was an undergrad, I did this course called multimedia production design work. I just did it because I wanted to, find out. I was curious at first. And then it gave me new tools. So these were what I call my tools for storytelling.
Then what triggers you or inspire you to do cross-disciplinary or multidisciplinary practices with other artists?
I think boredom. Serious. I mean, it's like so predictable doing it in theatre, with it's also, I mean, unless I'm doing, because my roots is in theatre, so unless I'm doing traditional script-based, text-based theatre, then I will have to work with actors and theatre actors and other theatre talents. But, on my good days, I'm usually, it's much more exciting to challenge notions of what performance is. And the only way to challenge notions of performance is to get people who don't understand the rules of theatre, invite them in and invite them to break the rules, you see. And having them break the rules allows me to also see the limitations as well as the potential of the performance space, from perspective of non-theatre or non-performance artists. And I think that's just for me, it's a real invaluable opportunity to continue learning. It's really about learning and understanding. It's not about I'm creating a message or some profound issues or whatever. It's really more about me understanding the medium that I love working in, which is the performance space, which is the four-dimensional space. Which the fourth dimension is time, the element of time.
Yeah. I think it's the integral part of art making in terms of cross or inter or multiple disciplinary practice. What's the integral part?
Okay, in terms of interdisciplinary work or cross disciplinary work, I think one of the kind of one of the integral ideas or the central elements must be to proliferate ideas and expressive modes. This is what's important to me. So this is why I got frustrated just doing theatre or just being an actor. Okay, because it's like it can be fantastic. It can also be very, very boring.
Yeah.
Okay, let's be honest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even visual arts. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, it's like any media is kind of. I mean, not inherently is an amazing media, but also can be a bore. Okay.
How do you measure the success of this this work where there's a certain elements that which is beyond your control, like the internet thing, or because there's a lot of multitasking, and you need to coordinate with not just you as a director, as an actor, and then with other actors and the visual.
Yeah.
So what do you consider successful work to you?
Oh, okay. That's a difficult. I think what is successful is what is. I don't know. Hang on, let me think.
Yes. I mean, like for example,
Yeah,
because from what I heard you saying is that it's more about you getting stimulated and getting more ideas. It's not a full stop, but even the mistake is actually a lesson learned for you to go on to the next one.
No, I think I think it's true of all genuinely experimental work or avant-garde, what used to be called avant-garde in 1920s and 30s, but we can still call avant-garde, vanguard, pioneering work. Okay, we should try and do. I think one of the characteristics of that is that it is as much about process as product, and the idea of success is kind of, you don't think in those terms. You can think of kind of, that worked.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, in terms of a time-based piece, it's kind of there were moments. Okay, so you guys worked with me on the piece on the Frass,
Yeah.
okay, and that was. And yeah, that was a kind of typical kind of just crazy thing. Would you work with this idea? And you, as I'm doing this great painting that just changed all the time. I was working with projections, and some of the projections had come from a live dance piece that was worked on. There were dancers there. Ulrich had this great, your car with video being projected into the windscreen that you were taking of the live event, and and so on. Kind of, I'd set up a video art piece where people were eating an apple, just looking at a camera and thinking of death. Okay, so all kind of, in some ways, simple conceptual. This is what happens. You paint, things that are projected, and the image of the apple was big. You're, taking video of whatever happens. We're just working in kind of really old traditional kind of ways in some ways. Very fluxus, or whatever.
Very hard to say one thing. Usually if I make a piece of art, it's because I'm curious about something and I feel a need to investigate it. The first thing I always do is I start from the body, because I'm trained in that. So I'll look at the artist, I look at the body, the body as a physical site. Yeah.
So what were you doing just now?
What was I doing? Just now was part of actors training. We're researching into looking at martial arts and voice for the contemporary actor.
What's the what?
What's the integral part of this art making process?
The important elements when you're doing this
The
kind of-
juice.
Yeah.
Sex.
We can put it in.
Yeah. It has to be sex, man. It has to be desire. It has to be, you want something, you're hungry for something, you're thirsty for something, and you go and get it, and there are many ways to get it, I mean, my way is really very much that pseudo-democratic space where, and we trust one another, we learn, or I can be an asshole or bastard and be very dominating and like, do this, do that, and for me, sometimes I need to shift between being democratic and very dominating, because there's certain I suppose certain images or certain narratives which I really want it to be a certain way, whereas there's certain images and narratives where I admit that I do not know the answer, and that's where we collaborate to create an answer.
Okay, what do you have for the students? What will you tell the students about practice or even on this topic? Do you have any?
You just keep experimenting and keep having, just try and realise ideas. And I think when you're a student, it's really important not to be too precious.
Yeah.
Particularly, I mean, with your final work,
Yes.
and when you get, kind of like your big piece, be as precious as you want, but kind of otherwise, experiment, play, throw away, process.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Make mistakes. Mistakes are nothing. Mistakes are glorious.
Yes.
Enjoy.
Yes.